Sweet. Oh, fancy. Okay, so whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tada tada ki tai. E hi ake ana te atakura he tio, he huka, he hauhunga. Homi e, hui e, tai ki e. Tēnā tātou katoa, no mai haere mai ki tēnei hōtaka. Naku te roro, no te roro, ka ora ai te iwi. Ko Stephanie toku ingoa, tēnā tātou katoa. So this is just an introduction to open up our webinar and to welcome everyone to the very first one of the year. I included a whakatoki, which is a proverb, which was naku te roro, no te roro, ka ora ai te iwi. That means with your basket and my baskets, the people will thrive. So that's kind of a metaphor of the support and collaboration that these webinars might bring in the future. So we're just the first ones, but in the future, there'll be different topics and different discussions. So hopefully you guys can get the most out of attending them or just watching them through the recordings. And I'll pass it on to Jenna now.
Cool, thank you, Steph. Yeah, so as she mentioned, welcome everyone. It's great to have you connected. We did this series, Mara Neal started it, and she started it last year as a bit of an off-season way for us to stay connected and to keep chatting about Frisbee, especially when off-season coincided with COVID, keeping us from playing Frisbee last year. So it ended up being a really great way to share ideas, to find support with things, to share lessons learned. And I think people got a lot from the different talks. It was also a great opportunity to give people to speak on different subjects that they felt like they were either learning in or experts in, because we've got some really great people in the community who have a lot of years of experience in different areas around coaching and leadership and teams and that sort of thing. So this first session is kind of a different perspective of that, because we thought it would be neat to hear about people who are in their first year taking on leadership positions. And so Amelia and Steph are going to talk about their experiences, and both of them are bringing most of their leadership times within a high school setting. And so as Steph mentioned, we really would like this to be very discussion based. And so while we've got some semi-structured questions just to help frame some of the discussion, we really sort of welcome others to pipe up and chime in and share any of your experiences or answers to the questions, particularly if you've got something outside of the high school scene. So whether that's younger or older or mixed division or open division, that sort of thing. So we're really keen to just sort of, if you have something to add, please chime in, but we'll sort of, the way it'll work is we'll pose the question and then Steph and Amelia will take turns sharing their answers, and then we can sort of go from there. So yeah, and as mentioned, questions are welcome at any time. So you can do that by either waving and hopefully we'll see it, and then you can or you can just unmute, or we also have a chat field as well, so you can pop messages in there too, and we can pose them to the speakers. So yeah. Oh, we should introduce ourselves. So actually,
yeah, true. Dang, no.
Yeah, go back.
Spoiler
Or
alert.
at least myself a little bit. So just, I'm Jana Makar. I'm based in Auckland. I played Womxn for a number of years, and then played high level with the national teams, going off to a couple of Worlds. And so that's the other thing, is that myself and Amelia and Steph are all Auckland based. So definitely keen to hear from people in other cities and other regions to chime in. And I think the first bit, Steph and Amelia, you guys do kind of introduce yourselves. So I'm done, but now this is your show.
Steph, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Steph. I'm from Auckland. I've been playing for the past 6 years. Started playing mostly at Auckland University, so played for AUC, and really got into helping out with some of the behind the scenes stuff. So did some chaperoning last year for AUC, but also started coaching in a high school level 2 years ago. So keen to share some stuff today.
Yeah, and hi, I'm Amelia. I started playing at school at Avondale College in 2013, And then from 2016 have been also playing for uni for AUC at Auckland. And then started coaching beginning of 2020, so right before everything happened.
Sweet. So we'll get straight into it with our first question, which I spoiled before. How did you, or how did we, Amelia, get into coaching?
Yeah, so like I said, I played for Avondale, and then went on to uni and kind of didn't have any contact with the Avondale team past school, which is normal. But then there were some Year 13 students who were at league and they were talking about how they were coaching themselves. And so when they came to youth champs, I talked to them and I was like, I can come and coach. And I just kind of got in contact with their teacher and just started coaching the team by myself from beginning of 2020 and through the pandemic up until now.
Cool. And Steph, what was your start?
So I kind of lied. I actually did start playing in high school my last year of college, but got injured. But I managed to play one tournament. So this is me on the left, circled in red. And my very first Frisbee tournament was wearing sneakers. Fast forward to 2020 last year, I was in my second year of coaching for Pakuranga College. And that was because in 2019, one of the coaches, Rory, asked me to come to trainings, and I thought it'd be a pretty good opportunity to give back to the old high school that I went to, which was Pakuranga College, and working with a great team that was already there, who were Jasmine and Rory. And after all, I guess I thought it was pretty fun and complemented well with playing Frisbee at a club level at this time. So I was doing like U24s and also playing for AUC a mixed season, and that was fun, but it was cool to kind of, I think I liked to help others, so I thought that this was a good starting point to help and give back to where I first played. So this photo in 2020 was at the AKSS indoor nets, and there were a great bunch of girls, many who had just started playing that year. So yeah, it was also another good chance to show the girls that there are some good female role models in the community and to encourage them to keep playing. We've got Jasmine and Priscilla highlighted. Priscilla's here tonight. I coach with Priscilla. She's the main coach this year at Pakuranga College, but her answers were shared with me, and I'll share a bit of her inputs to some of these questions tonight. Her answer was similar to this question. She was an assistant coach for Pakuranga College last year, and then she also kept coaching because she saw that was a gap in having female role models in the community. So that's something for you guys to think about, I guess, if you're thinking about coaching. You're making a big impact in giving back, and you don't have to be the best player in the world. It's just that there are people who don't know things and you know things, so why not share that knowledge?
I also think a good way to get into, if you're looking to coach, is volunteering at like youth tournaments, like volunteering at youth champs, volunteering at that tournament you've shown there, Steph. And then kind of if there's a coaching opportunity that opens up, you will hear about it from volunteering and being in the school community. Yeah,
definitely. I also coached at youth champs in 2019 and this year just because Ian was asking for coaches, and I was like, why not? And I didn't play U20s, but these girls, many of them don't have coaches in their schools, so it was just another chance to show them that someone like me can show them something new and bring it back to their school.
Cool. So that's really cool to see your guys' journeys through your Frisbee careers, and you both still have ages to go. But so looking back at those experiences with the teams that you coached, what's one thing that you think each of you did really well as a coach?
I think for me, emphasizing the fun and the spirit and making sure there's a really low barrier to entry for the younger kids especially. kind of having a really good community of spirit. Like it's no big deal if you mess up, supporting everybody on the team, being really supportive, like all of the kids being really supportive towards each other and really emphasizing that, I think is something I did quite well this year. Well, last year.
Yeah.
Steph?
I think definitely emphasizing the fun, but also just like thinking back when I started playing Frisbee, what did I want to get out of it and what made me stay? And I think the community of people being really welcoming and encouraging, like my first year, I learned heaps, and that's because I knew nothing about Frisbee. And I think the best coaches for people, it's not just what they teach, but it's how they teach it. So having that approach to have fun at least, or to know why you want to play Frisbee and keep playing Frisbee is what will drive the people who you coach to keep playing. And I think for me, it was creating a safe space for girls who are enjoying themselves and feeling involved and feeling like they're really improving in the Frisbee. Like that was the goal for coaching high school. And I think having a goal for any level of Frisbee, whether it's competitive, you might have some more different goals. That's still just as valid, and being able to convey that to the people who you're coaching is really important and is the baseline of any other content that you have in addition to that. And Priscilla's got the same, having a friendly environment and all that sort of stuff. But I'm also really curious to know what others think in terms of, because I know a few of you guys are also coaches in this Zoom. So any input or reflections that you guys have from your first year of coaching or second year or first few years will be pretty cool.
Yeah, feel free to type them in the chat or unmute. Just it's I think where you are today, when you look back at that first year of coaching, what take some pride in, what do you think that you did well and brought to the role? Open floor. Anyone?
If not, we can always move on, but yeah.
Hi, sorry, I'm trying to turn my video on. I don't know if that worked. Oh yeah, there I am. Hello.
Hello, Lucy.
Hi, lovely to see you all. So I personally, the only coaching I've ever really done has been very informal. So with like social teams, and I've been trying to bring very new players into the sport. I think it's really great to hear your experiences and to hear that even in like a more formal setting, like that spirit is really important, because something that I have found, especially trying to bring women into the sport, is that often it can be quite intimidating when you come across, you know, extremely athletic people who've been playing since high school, for example, and then maybe, you know, you're at university and you've never even really played sport before. But I think, yeah, in my experience, like spirit is really important. And I know that coaches that I have had, the ones I have responded best to have always been, you know, like you were saying, like the people that keep the fun and keep the energy and remind you why you're coming back to playing Frisbee.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's really great to hear that you guys are in high schools as well. Like I didn't have that experience. You couldn't play Frisbee at my high school. I really wish that there had been somebody there to tell me about how great this sport was.
I guess just a bit of a plug, the Auckland Frisbee community at least, there are some kids who are pretty keen in some schools, but they're lacking the coaches or resources to, I guess, build that program. So if you're keen to possibly coach, you can put some feelers out there in your community and see if any schools would be interested in starting a sports program that doesn't provide Frisbee at the moment. Because the more competition there is, the more schools you'll see at secondary school nats, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sadly not in Auckland, where I would volunteer.
Yeah, but also potentially Wellington.
Yeah, I think Mara's already doing some, from what I hear.
Pretty sick. And I hear Emma Doyle as well for Hutt Valley.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
were doing
Oh, Emma's such a great coach.
yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop fangirling, yeah.
Okay, any other contributions from people? Just one thing that you think that you have done well in your experience with coaching, or one thing that you've admired from seeing other coaches, what they bring?
I'll say something briefly.
Sure.
My first experience coaching was at the Auckland University beginners trainings. And when I first went in, I wasn't like there leading the trainings. I was there following along either Inchong or Jafar, I think 3 years ago, and like learning from how other coaches coached. And I think something that I've done well over my brief experience coaching new players is understanding that every player reacts differently to a different type of coaching, and being able to, as a coach, expose yourself as well to those different types of coaching, so you can appreciate what the players experience under different coaches as well. And you can do that in person and also watching heaps of stuff online.
Definitely. And I guess also like understanding who you're coaching. So building those relationships from the start, because I guess sometimes as a coach, it's not just top tier, bottom tier coach player relationship. It's good to build a good culture where there's open like communication on both ends. And that really
100%.
helps with like, yeah, so fostering the team culture is really important, and part of the coach's role doesn't necessarily have to end at teaching the skills.
Yeah, I think last year we had one of our sessions about helping people take on leadership roles. One of those things that key points we discussed was that leadership can take many forms. And so, like you said, you don't have to be the most experienced or the most skilled to be coaches. You can lead in different ways, and coaches can bring different things to the role. And because there's so many different aspects that you can contribute to a team. So it's really good to try different things and find out what you're really good at, and everyone will be good at something different. So. Okay, let's move on to the next question, which looks back. And so, you know, we're always learning. And so congrats to doing the things well that you brought to. And now looking back, what's one thing that you would maybe do a bit differently now that you've had an experience of trying out some stuff and then learning things along the way, and you know, hindsight, what would you have done a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think one thing I would do differently, especially going into a high school setting where the team was very kind of informal, led by the students, and very kind of unstructured, would be having that fun, but also bringing a balance of formality and kind of holding proper trials and having like reselecting captains. Because I think if I'd kind of from the beginning had a better sense of, okay, I'm the coach, and then there's the captains, and then there's everyone on the team, I think it would have been a bit easier for me to address issues when they came up, either with spirit issues or kind of issues with different players feeling like they weren't included. So I think imposing that structure from the beginning would have really helped me down the track.
Yeah, I guess it's quite difficult for you, Amelia, because you didn't really have that support network. Like,
yeah, it was just me, and there was the teacher in charge, but obviously they're not there at training all the time. So it's kind of, it was interesting going into a environment where I was the only coach, and then of course with COVID, there was then a period of time where I wasn't actually seeing any of the students, and I wasn't able to kind of be a normal coach, which was really difficult. So I think from the beginning, setting up like a proper selection process would have made things easier. What about you, Steph?
Well, I guess there's a few things that I would do differently, but that's just because on reflection I wasn't experienced but luckily, I guess I had some support from the coaches who were already at that high school, so Rory Moore and Jasmine Go. And what they did really well was have that structure for one and know how trainings worked there. But in terms of when I kind of stepped up with coaching, I tried to kind of figure out how I would coach. And it was very hesitant at first with my delivery. But at the same time, like after a while, I was like, oh, I know this stuff. I know how to play Frisbee. So I think I would work on being a bit more confident with my delivery, because if you're coaching a team that's new or a team that you've played with or that kind of stuff, you know what you want to teach and no one's going to doubt your skill or your knowledge. And the main thing is just to convey it confidently. So I think I would try and just be less self-conscious, which is very difficult for anyone, but just trust in myself and know that others can trust in me and my coaching. So I think in doing so, I would have probably tried to challenge the girls a bit more with the skills, teaching some techniques and things like cutting, well, more than just cutting vertically, but like horo, or doing a few shuttle sprints or relays to build up their fitness to be a bit more competitive, because they probably had that potential, but I was just hesitant about, oh, am I doing this right or not? Am I pushing them too hard? So those sorts of questions were just there. Lucy, you got a question or like a hand up?
Yes, I was just wondering, like on that point, is it like in terms of giving you that confidence, what do you think changed in you? Was that the support from other people that made you feel more confident, or was it just having that experience made you realize, yeah, I do know what I'm doing? And like,
yeah, I think a bit of both, because the more you do something, the more you think that you're getting experience. So that in itself as an individual helps you be a bit more confident. But I don't think I would have been able to keep going without support. I think having conversations with people, like, I guess it's kind of like a life lesson as well. Like if you have a bad day, you know there's always going to be someone there to talk to you about things and they can get you through things. And those are really important people in your life. So I think whether it's a co-coach or someone who you play Frisbee with to talk to, like they're going to back you and they're going to like reassure you that you can keep getting better at coaching, because it is a new thing. It's not playing Frisbee, it's teaching Frisbee, and that's sort of different, but at the same time you've got the toolbox to use it and apply it, and I think that makes you a better Frisbee player overall on reflection. So yeah,
I really think that recognizing all of the, like, even if you haven't coached before, when you're on the sideline talking to new players, or you're helping people on the field, helping with their field awareness, or you're just playing at league, or you're playing at a social pickup, when you're helping younger or newer players, you are coaching, like, and you can take those skills that you learn and be like, oh, okay, I actually have already been coaching for a while. I've already been helping people with playing. And so even though now I'm moving into a more formal environment, recognizing that can be quite important for your confidence, I think.
totally. Like coaching is definitely a new challenge. Well, it was a very new challenge for me 2 years ago, but I kind of took it on full stride, like took the challenge and I made it into opportunity to also give back. So it feels good to be able to coach. And if there is ever a chance to coach a more skilled team, like I wouldn't say no if I had the time.
I think one thing too is not very many people have the opportunity to speak in front of groups or enjoy the opportunity speaking in front of groups. You might have to do it when you're making presentations at uni or at work or something like that, but it can be very intimidating. But I think that practice makes perfect, and the more you do it, you will just naturally get better at it, because you'll get over the initial jitters, or at least you only have them for the first minute or so, and then you'll get over it. So doing that in a Frisbee setting with, you know, supportive teammates and club members is actually really good for sort of building those life skills, and will help you in uni and work when you have to get up in front of a bunch of people that maybe you don't know. And I think that
ask your captain if you can volunteer to do the spirit speech at the end of games.
Yeah, that's a
feel like you want practice.
A great way to start. And you know, and even in terms of when you have to explain something for the first time, that it's really good practice. And the more that you have to explain what a force is, or, you know, or the quick elements of throwing a backhand, you'll learn how to explain it better by doing it a lot, because you'll see what resonates with people, what their eyes glaze over, if you've told them 20 things when you should just focus on 3 key ones. And so getting that sort of the spiel, the pitch down pat through practice is just, it's a really good way to get better at it. And yeah, starting with spirit circle speeches is really good too. And always be prepared for some bants about saying "see you in the final" is your closing line. Cool. Anything else that anyone wants to maybe share about what they've learned in their years, and maybe one thing they do a bit differently looking back? If not, we can move on.
I've got one thing quickly.
Yeah.
When I started coaching, for the beginners, as I said before, I would try to explain everything in lots of detail, and I feel like the more experience I get coaching, the less detail I give, because I'm learning to realize that people learn better if you just encourage them to learn and figure things out by themselves. Because everyone in a Frisbee context is going to throw slightly differently, or is going to cut slightly differently, and opening to their eyes to how to think about doing those things is much more effective and efficient than giving them specific move your arm in 30 degrees or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it helps to have that like personalized advice, I guess, because not everyone is going to have the same like troubleshooting problem, and that helps you get to know each player and what they need to work on. It's so true.
Yeah, and when you think of, even if you're learning something new for the first time, you're going to hear the first minute of what someone's explaining to you, and maybe catch on to 2 points, and then you're not even going to hear the rest. And the more that someone keeps talking to you and telling you all different techniques and tips and things to keep in mind, it's just going to not even get there, because they're focusing on the first minute of stuff that you said. And so really learning how to pick out a few key points and focusing on that is actually better, because that's all they'll hear or, you know, catch on to at the beginning anyways. That's a great point. All right, so we'll move on to the next one. What's one thing that you, Steph and Amelia and others, would like to learn more about or improve on? So we've talked about what you're good at and some of the things that you do differently. And what are some areas or ways that you'd like to grow as a coach moving forward?
Yeah. I know that I would, because I am a coach that's the only coach for the team, the only official coach, I think I would like to improve on having more assistant coaches, more guest coaching, and asking other coaches to come and like explain in one session a specific thing that they're really good at, or bring in a guest coach who has like experience like doing zone drills and is really good at explaining zone, and kind of, I think that would give me the opportunity to learn from their coaching, and also give me the assistance of having multiple pairs of eyes and multiple coaches at a time at trainings, because I think that is one thing that if I improved how many people are there to help all of the students, it would really make them better teams as a whole.
Who do you think you could ask in terms of that situation?
There's all the people who I kind of have learned from, who have coached me. There's all the people who I've played with, who are kind of like in the women's in the women's scene, in the uni scene, who I kind of respect and who are really good at explaining things, who, like, let's say if I'm on a team with someone and I'm confused about something, there's those people who I will always go to on my team to ask questions from if the coaches are busy. So I think just reaching out to more of those people and being like, can you come along for one session 1 week and lend an hour of your time?
Yeah, I think like that those guest coaches are quite memorable from my experience of being coached on Blueberries, because I think it was Billy before he was like an actual like full-time coach for us. He once ran a defense drill and he gave us so many tips that a lot of us took away into our playing, and coming from a different perspective in the ultimate community not only like helps the coach, the usual coach, but also I think puts players gives players a new perspective on who's out there and what more there is to learn. So it's pretty exciting to utilize people or just get help. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we got Emily actually ran a training once to teach the girls chicken wings. So that was a fun way to kind of get the newer players to try something new, but also have fun, because they had heaps of fun practicing how to throw a chicken wing. And then Emily threw one and it was insanely far. And then they were just like gaping, like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. Yeah. Oh, and also, I guess to answer this question for me, I guess it was similar to my answer from the past, not having the confidence to really be able to explain things. I guess one thing that I wanted to improve on was to explain things better, and that comes with practice. So just acknowledging that it might not be, you're not a perfect person the first time. You're not going to be a perfect coach the first time, but with more time and more even planning, like reading up articles or just remembering how other people used to explain what a horizontal was, what a zone was, taking those small tips to help explain things better in a simpler way, in a more concise way, is really good to add to my toolbox. And I think a good example most recently was when I went to the youth champs and coached the Wellington team with Amelia Verrall. So it was basically just 2 days of these girls from all around the country playing a tournament, and we were meant to coach, and we ended up teaching the girls 6 different drills, did some intense throwing clinics, and they played, I think, at least 4 games a day. So like that's a lot of stuff that people learn in just 2 days because they've invested all that time into playing Frisbee, and knowing how to explain things in a very short, concise manner is quite important in that situation. Yeah, so it was a very good exercise.
Yeah, I think another thing that I'm starting to do recently is ask the kids for feedback after an explanation, ask for feedback after a drill, ask for feedback during games. Like if they're on the sideline, be like, do you understand this thing? Do you, like, where are you struggling with this? Do you have any questions on that? Kind of making sure that they're comfortable with bringing their feedback to me. Yeah,
definitely. And I think like not just feedback about Frisbee, but just a feedback about how we're coaching as well, because we are brand new coaches, and sometimes we forget things about what it's like to be in someone's shoes. So for our situation, it's remembering what it's like to be a high schooler again, and having lots of deadlines in those situations. So, or just being a uni student and being, and this time of the year is very busy. So understanding as a coach, like there are going to be situations where people aren't going to retain information at a certain training, and just to be a bit more lenient or understanding and tailoring trainings to that situation.
Yeah, especially with high school students, their time is not necessarily their own. They don't have as much control over their lives as, like, for example, a uni student does, or a person who's graduated, or a person who's doing work. They don't have control over when they can come to trainings or not, whether they can come to trainings or not often. So being really understanding about the kind of other commitments they have in their lives is really important.
Cool. I might skip ahead to the next question because I think that that'll be a really good one to hear from you guys, but also from other people on the call. And it's to ask for what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is new or just about to start out in a coaching role.
Should I go first?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, basically 4 words, give it a go, because if you love playing Frisbee and you play Frisbee for 1 year or more, or 10 years, whatever, coaching is just a great way to show how excited you are or how passionate you are to play Frisbee, because like we've said, spirit is such a key part of the sport and it's such a different part of other sports. So I guess sharing that type of enthusiasm is going to shine through in any sort of level of coaching. I guess I remember having a conversation with someone a few months ago about coaching, and I was saying how I didn't know enough to coach Frisbee higher than the high school level. And she like totally said like, that's not true, you know so much and you can offer so much to people. So I think for me, it's all about the underselling myself and not having the confidence to I guess believe in myself, but having this really supportive Frisbee community reminds you that you can do this and you can try something like coaching, because this community is so supportive and it deserves just more people to keep playing. And for more people to keep playing, we need coaches to teach people how to play Frisbee. And that's at all levels, beginner to competitive. So you don't know how good it is until you try. So I highly encourage people to try and ask for feedback if you're not sure what coaching is like, if you're not sure how to start. You can just talk to your current coach that you play Frisbee and how they got into Frisbee and see what avenues there are. And I think there are a few groups all around New Zealand, like local groups. I know that Canterbury Ultimate Cat sometimes post youth coaching opportunities. That's a great start, great opportunity to start coaching for a short amount of time. Low commitment, but there's always going to be an opportunity for you to take it a bit further.
I would say the one piece of advice I would give would be when you get discouraged, or when you kind of get tired, or when you get really disappointed, like if you get 3 trainings in a row get rained out by storms, or you'll go to the school and you'll ask for help, or you'll go to the school and you'll ask for like money or assistance and they're not being helpful, or you have to fight the bureaucratic system. Think about how when you get to the end of the year, or when you get to the end of a tournament, you really notice how the kids will improve, or how the people that you're coaching will improve. And then when they get to a tournament and they all gel as a team, and you get to the end of the tournament and they've had such an amazing time, it really makes it all worth it. But when you're going through all those like difficult times on the road to that tournament, or on the road to that kind of end point, you can get really discouraged, and it's kind of hard to see why at the end it's going to be worth it. But it will, because the people that you're coaching will benefit so much from all the things that they're learning, and the fact that they're playing Frisbee in a team, the spirit, the kind of the way that some of them get encouraged to play at a higher level, it all makes it worth it in the end.
Yeah. I'm interested to know what other people think as well.
Keen to hear from others. What would be one piece of advice? And maybe while people maybe get ready to share their tips there, I will share Priscilla had given us some answers in advance too, so I'll share hers. Her piece of advice was that she wouldn't overcomplicate on how to explain a drill or a play. So that's great. We kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. And sorry, Pris, I'm speaking before you. I know you're here, but if you want to jump in, feel free. And she'd also use other sporting words to help explain how to play things. So for example, interference, and like not to screen like in basketball, pivoting like in netball. And again, just keeping sort of those information explanations in nice bite-sized pieces. So that's really good because there might be, you know, if students are moving through their school years, they've played other sports. So any ways that you can sort of draw parallels will really help make them make the connection. Cool. I see Leo has something. Please feel free to share.
Hey all. Yeah, I think my most important thing is not to be afraid to ask for help. Like you've already mentioned about asking more experienced people to help out. Experienced coaches is what I mean there, but not being afraid to also ask other players in your team to help out. Like if you have some more experienced players, played for a few years, just getting them to run one drill lets you watch a little bit more, be able to spot things, means you're not juggling so much. But it also means that those people are also getting the flavor of what it's like to coach just one drill. And then that helps keep the whole cycle of getting people into coaching going.
That's so true. And Leo, I can definitely apply that to a developing, like a newer player setting as well. So we currently coach girls who are from year 9 to year 13. There's maybe 2 girls who are in year 13, their last year of high school. And it's like their chance to, I guess, take on that leadership opportunity to captain that team. And I guess for them to explain some drills when they can also builds their confidence to grow, even if it is just explaining what an undercut is. Like that gives them the confidence to keep trying and to know that they're leading the team of new girls who have just started playing Frisbee. So it goes from a beginner to higher level setting for sure.
Yeah, I think really demonstrating that you have the confidence in the older players to lead their teams by themselves or explain things by themselves without you jumping in is really good for developing their leadership, because as a coach, you're not only leading yourself, but you're developing other people into leaders and you're developing them their coaching skills as well. When you get to, especially when they get to year 13 or when they're kind of getting to the point where they're being a spirit captain or a captain, I think giving them, showing that you have the confidence in them to leave them to do it themselves, I think is really important.
Cool. Anyone else on the call want to share a piece of advice? Ben or Nick? Oh, yeah.
This is kind of along the lines of what people have been saying about don't over-explain things too much. But if you've got a drill or are practicing something in particular and you've set, as you should have, you've set the goals of what you're trying to accomplish in this drill. If someone in it is doing something wrong in that drill that's unrelated to your goals, you don't have to tell them then. I think that's something I've definitely learned, is that if you've got a goal in mind, focus on how to make them better at that then, and bank that issue you've seen in them for later so that they can feel like they're succeeding at the goal as opposed to failing at something else.
Absolutely. I think it's good to frame things well for players so that they don't feel like they're doing something wrong, but in contrast, they are empowered to improve. And yeah, definitely timing is a skill for a coach that is very difficult if you're completely new to Frisbee. And it's what the best coaches have, that empathy and understanding, or just timely encouragement and good worded feedback. Ben, you've got your hand up.
Hi, everyone. One of the tips I have is actually came from Imogen. It looks like it was one of the women's coaching
Oh, yeah.
seminars last year. I've just found it. And it was on athlete-centered coaching. I found a lot of those concepts were really helpful. I guess a summary would be after a drill or a talk, asking what the players themselves found out regards to the training focus, like what did you do that performed well in this drill? What made it harder for you, harder for the other players, rather than spelling it out yourself, so they can self-reflect and actually show that they learned the concepts.
Definitely, yeah. Is that webinar or resource accessible, Jana? Do you know?
Yeah, I just
Oh, Ben, you
posted the
found it.
link, yeah, in the chat there. So we've recorded all of them, and yeah, I missed that one. So I was
Yeah,
so
me too.
thankful that it was recorded. So please do go watch that. That's great. So just a note of time that I think technically these were supposed to be an hour, so we've still got more questions to go, but we do have 10 minutes. So we can go, if people are happy to stay on a little bit past 8, we can keep going, but maybe we'll keep rolling. Or Amelia and Steph, did you want to take a break and check in on anything, or?
I'm pretty good so far. How are you, Steph?
Same.
Okay, let's keep rolling, and then we can just do another check and see if people want to stick around past 8. So this is a good one in terms of why we started this series. Why do you guys think it's important for women to take on coaching roles?
Or leadership roles, I guess.
Or
as well.
leadership, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of representation, like having a female coach inspires the other female players that you're coaching to keep playing, play at a high level, maybe coach themselves. Like I found that the girls that I coach, if they see a female coach, they think, oh, well, if they can do it, so can I. And I think also, particularly in my experience with the team that I coached, having a female person of authority to go and talk to, because our teacher in charge was male, but having a female person of authority to go to really helped when there were interpersonal issues within the team. Like if there's any personal problems, if they're more comfortable with a female coach, it'll encourage them to come forward and ask for help about it.
Yeah, I think especially for girls who are not so confident, it's more intimidating from experience for them to go up to a guy and tell them that I don't understand something. And it's nothing to do with the guy in that situation. It's just that they're just less comfortable in general. And I think having that role modeling, like what Amelia said, is really important for that, I guess, more nurturing role. That I think I tend to be, I have an example of, I guess, last year when I was co-captaining with Nick in Flood. And for me, I guess my leadership style is less hype than Nick's, but I take pride in my style of leadership, and that I like to make sure that everyone is comfortable in the team, everyone is feeling supported, and that in itself is like the foundations of a good team culture. And I think whether you're coaching or whether you're leading, having that quality for a team is super important, whether things are good or whether things get tough, because when things are tough, that's when it's really important to have someone or a system in place where you have that channel of communication and support. And yeah, so I think that from experience, it was really important for me to be there and for me to also work as a team with Nick to make sure that we were the best leaders that we could for our team. And I guess when it comes to coaching, yeah, like you can't underestimate your presence as a woman. I think it's pretty cool seeing some girls in leadership roles or women in leadership roles, because some of them are pretty badass.
Yeah. Like I remember when I was in high school, like the female captain and Eunice, who came back and coached us for a year, that they were the most inspirational people to me. Even though I had male players to look at, the fact that they were female and they were playing really well and they were playing to such a high level, they were representing New Zealand, made me really inspired to keep playing and to play at university and to kind of to come back and coach, because she coached me and I felt like I could give back the same way she did.
Yeah, for sure. Eunice is cool.
Yeah.
Shout out Eunice right now.
Yeah.
Hope you watch this. Nick, you had your hand up. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna briefly add to what you were saying, Steph, about how we co-captained together last year and how I think it went really well. But to add on how that situation directly relates to coaching, especially in coaching in a team, and what we did as co-captains is we didn't just show up and everything worked out. Like we had a couple of meetings prior to the season discussing how each other preferred to lead in a team role and making sure we're on the same page. And that can be directly translated to coaching if you have multiple coaches as well. So making sure that all the coaches are on the same page, or the coaches and the captains in a team, all the people within leadership need to at least be attempting to understand how the other people's prefer to lead, because then that will just help everyone together lead as well as they can.
Yeah. I naturally was like very hesitant to Nick. I was like, Nick, I've never really captained properly before, and I really want some help to improve, because I really want to know how to be a better captain or leader. So yeah, he was really, really, really helpful and supportive. And I think having like an ally or just a support person for the entire season, someone who you can talk to at any time, is really important. And I highly encourage anyone who's starting to reach out and maybe make a list of who they could ask when things get tough. Yes, Zoe, hello.
Hi. I often think with these kinds of questions, we talk a lot about, which is awesome, in how you can be a role model to other women and how it helps empower them. I think often we miss that it also shows dudes and guys that they can respect a woman in authority. They can respect a woman as a coach. If you get a bunch of new dudes and their first experiences of being coached are not all by men, they are going to especially be better mixed ultimate players, but I also believe just better ultimate players in general, and possibly and hopefully better people. Like, it's important not just for the women, it's important to show the dudes that you're coaching with, the dudes that are coaching in the country, and the guys that you're coaching, what women can do in a coaching role.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Was that from experience, Zoe, when you were coaching your mixed team?
Yes, sorry, I saw what Ben put in the chat. I obviously am quite passionate about mixed ultimate, which I'm going to do a talk on later as well. But I think we underestimate how much of an impact female coaches can have on especially those newer dudes that are first getting into it. Like, I watch them having come from an environment that was not played gender equally. And you make a huge difference by just being there and then being like, oh, women know stuff.
Definitely.
Cool. That was really, I think, a great point to make, and good to maybe move us to the next question too, unless anyone has other things to add. Or Zoe, did you have something further?
Your hand's still up.
Sorry, no, that's all. Go on.
Okay, no. That's good. And I guess on that point, like, and so that point too is that, and also women don't always have to coach women's. So, you know, women coaching in the mixed division, women coaching open teams. I think that's good to show that, you know, they can bring that coaching expertise to any team at any level. So our next question is, where do you go to look for coaching resources and ideas? And so this is, I think, a good question to share some of those places, and people can take notes, and we can share this afterwards too. But where do you go to get your ideas, and whether it's for drills or tactics or approaches and styles, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I definitely use, like, for the basics of rules, spirit, that kind of thing. WFDF has a lot of good resources on that front. And then basically just through playing on development teams with AUC, I've learned a lot from, like, Ben Chong, James Crosby, you, Jana, you coached me one year, and just picking up all those drills, picking up all the different things I've learned from being on those teams have been really, really helpful. Like, you don't realize how many drills you've picked up. You don't realize how many things you've memorized just from being on teams and learning from really amazing coaches. I think specifically the Zodiac women as well, kind of like Shelby, Hannah, Anna, Julia, all of those girls, like learning from all the drills that they run, all the information they give out at training, like just bringing that to my coaching has been really successful. Yeah.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Steph. This relates to what I was gonna say to something earlier. I didn't end up saying it. So I'll say it now. What my piece of advice for myself going forward kind of relates directly to this. And when I am thinking of a training plan or what I want to do at training, especially when your team doesn't have, or you're not directly coaching a team and you're coaching just a random group of players, which I'm doing a lot with Ulti 101 at AUC. They don't have like a goal that they're working towards. The goal is just improving as players. So you're not training specific things for specific things. So it's really hard sometimes to know what to coach. So personally, what I like to do is I think about what I want to learn and what I will enjoy learning, and I go find how I would like to be taught that. And Ben Stiggers has just put in their Rise Up Ultimate, and that's one of my favorite places to go, because they have so much about coaching middle schoolers. They have a huge program in there, and it says for middle schoolers, but you can use it for anyone, because the way they describe theories and things like that is so basic, which is such a good thing, because it means, as we were saying, you're not overcomplicating all that kind of stuff. So yeah, making sure you're enjoying the trainings that you're running will help a lot.
Yeah, it's a really good point to put yourself in the player's shoes and think about how you would want to be taught something. I guess since I only coach at a high school level and people are quite new, my approach is quite basic, but I feel like on reflection, I could make it a bit more interesting. But I ask a lot of for a lot of advice from Rory. So Rory Moore, who's been coaching PEC for the past 5 or so years, and he's got some really good ideas on how to, not necessarily like drills and stuff, but like how to deal with kids, like how to talk to kids, how to not discipline, and you find a softer word, like how do I guess like make kids
Listen.
like listen to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
struggle with that as well.
yeah, so even that sort of stuff, I think just asking people around you who have had experience with coaching at a similar level is quite useful, or just even ideas from like women's training, so blueberries trainings. Like I think blueberries trainings are really intense, so when I want a really intense training, I'll do some drills based off my own trainings that make it a bit simpler so I can explain it easier. And sometimes there's those Tuesday tips from Ulti World or just like stuff like that, that just has some useful snippets of information.
Yeah, frisbee podcasts. There's a bunch of podcasts I listen to. You pick up so many things. It's like, oh yeah, I should talk about that at training.
Yeah, but for the most part, I think it's just from experience, like drills I've done before. It's useful stuff that people have said that I've just kind of taken on board. Yeah. Hello, Nick again. Oh no.
Oh.
And down.
Can I do?
I also think that
Jenna.
After Amelia.
I think that like thinking back to when you first started playing, what are all those basic things that you struggled with to begin with? Like, how did you struggle with forehands? Like, how did you struggle with your field awareness, and kind of analyzing the things that you found difficult and then bringing that back around and kind of finding a way to kind of explain those things or focus on those things more, or ask someone who coached you, how did you explain this to me? Because you explained it really well and I don't remember exactly what you said. Like if I want, like I'll go ask Ian or I'll go ask any of the girls from Zodiac. I'll be like, how did you explain this? Yeah.
Cool. I've been posting some of the links that people have mentioned in the chat there. Feel free to add it. And I liked the call out of Rise Up because that reminded me that ages ago, Mario and Alex, some of the founders behind that project, came to New Zealand and did coach the coach sessions with people who were interested in getting into coaching. And they also did team trainings with some of the club teams around the country. And then they went and played Ocean Beach, and it was Alex versus Mario, the two teams. And so that was pretty cool. But that's another opportunity, is always try to go to coaching development events, whether it is, there's lots of online conferences, mostly through the US, but opportunities there where you get to hear from other coaches who are either sharing their tips for explaining things or planning out a season or leadership styles. And going to those events is really, really helpful and just really eye-opening to hear how people are doing things in other countries. So not even just in our region, but to learn how they're approaching development and youth ultimate and spirit and things like that in the US or in Europe, Asia, elsewhere. So, and sometimes if you just register, you'll get the recorded ones. So you can do that. Yeah, and so I know the UAP Ultimate Athlete Project that I posted there, they run an annual coaching conference and it was free and everything was recorded. You just had to register. And so that's a really good one. And yeah, just keeping your eyes peeled for that and being part of groups on Facebook. There'll often be web streams and recorded talks and stuff. Cool, so we're at the top of the hour and people are needing to drop off. Feel free, that's fine. We've got the rest of our evening to go to, but if we do have a few who do want to stick around, we've got 2 more questions if we want to keep going. Steph and Amelia, are you game? I mean, we'll keep recording it so people can always just watch later.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I got time.
Yeah.
Cool, sweet. So we'll do the bonus questions and then maybe we'll just open it up for any random questions that anyone might have. Yeah, okay, cool. So the bonus question there is, Shout outs. Is there anyone that you look up to for inspiration or motivation? And this can
Yeah,
be another place to point.
I already mentioned Eunice, so Eunice is definitely up there. Yourself, Jenna, from like just having you as a coach. Yeah, all of the women who I've played with. That's a huge list, but like there's so many women that I've played with, like EJ, Emma Jane, Emily, like just yeah. What about you, Steph?
I think the first name that I can think of is Ethan, because he was a really great coach for Flood for the past few years that I was in Flood. And I guess his approach to not just, I guess, explaining drills, he's very concise at explaining things, but he also brought out a lot of confidence in our teammates, because a few of us hadn't been playing Frisbee for that long. And by the end of the season, I think maybe it wasn't just Ethan, but it was the whole team. But I think he contributed to making the team into players who believed in themselves and believed that they could do better. So I kind of look up to him to one day having that coaching style and being able to facilitate confidence in others. Oh, there's also Priscilla's answer. She says, my Frisbee friends, because everyone takes in information differently, but there's a possibility that others see things from a different angle and sheds light on drills or anything that you may know off by heart, but others may see something else. And so, yeah, the supportive Frisbee community. Any other shout outs?
Yeah, open floor. And anyone beyond? Is anyone fangirling for or fanboying for other players, like really high elite level players? Nick?
I've got one.
Yeah.
I'd like to second Ethan first of all. But the coach of Fury over in the US, the head coach, his name's Matty Zhang.
Yeah.
And he's insane. He's run a couple of coaching clinics that are available to view on YouTube, which I highly recommend. But the way his philosophy around coaching, I'll try quote it, but I'll completely scuff it up. But it's really, really cool the way he approaches coaching. From trying to like heighten the player's experience at the same time as just heightening their ability. Is really, really cool. So I'd highly recommend him.
Should link that, Nick.
I'll try find it and link it. Yeah, I'll go.
Look.
I'll get to work.
Oh gosh,
Steph, your lighting changed. It's very dramatic now.
the office building ran out of light. Come on.
You mentioned Michelle Phillips in Australia, Jenna. So good shout out there.
Yeah, I love her. She's super cool. She's done a lot of work in the development scene. And is very passionate about empowering women as well. And she's coached high level too.
Nice.
Nice. Thanks for posting those, Nick. Curious, anyone kind of motivated or inspired by anyone in different sports?
Oh, there was one, I don't know, I can't remember what her name is, but she runs New Zealand Quidditch, essentially. And I went along to one of her trainings and she was just super inspirational. It's really interesting to see her perspective from where ultimate might have been 20 years ago, because Quidditch is a young sport. So it was really inspirational to see her leading in New Zealand a very small sport the way ultimate used to be. Yeah. Try and find her name and put it in the chat.
Yeah. For those in Auckland, Victoria Park is a big park in downtown CBD. I was walking through one day and I saw what I assume is Quidditch, just based on what I've seen online.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, they had hoops and they had brooms or sticks. So anyway, I was like, oh wow, what a strange sport. And it just made me think that must be what people thought when they first saw Frisbee being played in fields. All right, moving on to bonus question number 2. I like this one because I think it's really interesting to hear this. How has coaching changed your perspective as a player? Steph, if you wanna.
Oh yeah, I think I've already mentioned it before, but I'll never underestimate explaining the basics. So things like a vertical stack, how to throw a backhand and forehand. Sometimes it's like you can overcomplicate it so easily, but if you can explain it clearly or just help someone perfect a backhand or forehand to the best of their ability, like that's the most rewarding thing ever. Like at the high school level, when I saw one of the girls throw a forehand the next week after like throwing for 20 minutes with them in the last training and feeling really happy about throwing a flat forehand, that was pretty cool. So very rewarding. Teaching people for sure. And also another thing is how much of a job that a coach does to make sure that the team is on the same page about strategy. So ultimately it's a team sport and everyone should be on the same page for things to work on the field. The coach kind of has the best perspective when players are focusing on playing in a game, and that takes a lot of mental energy during a tournament and during training. So I really respect their feedback every time they give feedback, because sometimes there's like 14 others asking for individualized feedback at the same time. So definitely appreciating the amount of time and sacrifice that people put in to this position.
Amelia?
Yeah, I think my perspective has really changed on my own play, like how I play and like all of the basic things that I do that I kind of either let slip, or kind of like the ways that I'm not as kind of sharp on specific things like coaching or pivoting or kind of like faking, and kind of coaching those basics has made me reevaluate the way that I've slipped into maybe more lax ways of playing. And then I think really the gaps in my skill have been really pointed out by coaching. So for example, I was trying to coach like hammers, scooters, and chicken wings. We went over because the kids were like, "What are those throws?" And so we were like, "Okay, we'll go over them for a training." But I can coach someone how to hammer, but I can't actually do the hammer as well as I would like to, or I can't throw a chicken wing as well as I would like to. And so I think it's really pointed out the things that I want to improve on myself and my own play. Things like laying out. Like I avoid laying out at all costs just because I'm scared of getting injured, because I injured my shoulder that way. And I think, yeah, it's really brought my focus into what I want to improve it in myself.
Cool. Others on the call want to share anything? I know for me, it made me much more patient as a player to let the coach explain the drill and not chitter chatter when they're trying to get some points across, or question a drill before I see it in action, because sometimes the point of the drill is revealed at the end. So you just have to trust the process and get there. So that's been helpful. Yeah, someone's mentioned the importance of having a team strategy and around defense. Mess. What does she know about defense? Poaching.
Ouch.
Yeah, you definitely respect your own coaches a lot more after like going through all the trials and tribulations of coaching yourself.
Yeah. Cool. Any others? If not, then we can maybe just, if we skip back to slide 15, maybe just open it up, or not 15, 14. Yeah,
yeah.
don't show that yet.
Sorry.
Open question time. We could do maybe the last 15 minutes and wrap it up at 8:30 and or sooner if there isn't any. But now, any other questions at all that people would like to raise, or things that they'd like to share about what they learned in their first year coaching, or what they think other people might like to hear if they're about to begin their first year coaching? Have at her. I have a question for Zoe, actually, if she's still on the call. Was this year when you coached in mixed with Peter, was that your first year coaching, or had you, I know you've probably played leadership positions in the past, but was that your first year coaching?
That what Equilibrium, that's the second year Equilibrium has existed. So that would be the second year just coaching, which I think is very different from when you're coaching, but it's kind of a captaincy role, which I've definitely done in like social teams that I've played in with leagues before, but it's very different from like running trainings, and Equilibrium is the first place I've kind of done that.
Cool. And did you enjoy it? Are you going to go back and do it again? Nice.
I would certainly keep coaching Equilibrium. I'm invested now. I've committed.
Yeah.
No, it's very rewarding. And now actually kind of on the how do you feel as a player, I don't know how to just, I don't think I'm very good at just being a player anymore. I think I'm actually a terrible person sometimes for the coaches, because I don't quite know how to turn it off, and yet I know how bad too many voices in an environment are. So that's something I try and work on. But
Cool. Awesome. We've got a question in the chat from Priscilla. So how do you transition from high school coaching to more advanced coaching? Steph or Amelia, do you have maybe some tips for that? Or
Not yet. I haven't done that transition yet.
Like, honestly, I think it's just taking that opportunity, like I said earlier, giving it a go. If the opportunity is there and you've got the time to work on improving and to ask people for help, like all those sorts of available resources around you to transition, then yeah, there's no reason why, if you're not keen, or no reason why if you are keen to not do it. No one's going to be perfect, yeah, the first time. You only get better until you do it.
yeah, I'd say too, maybe feel free, buddy up with someone. I think it's always good to, if you can, take on coaching and leadership roles with someone, because then you can, as Steph and Nick were saying, back each other, support each other, troubleshoot things together. It's a good way to, bounce ideas and figure stuff out. And then if they're willing to take you on as whether a shadow, or if you approach it together and they've got that bit of experience, you can lead with them, but also learn from them along the way.
I think if you know someone who's coaching a team, volunteer to help out if they need extra people, or if they need, like if they would like to split into two groups during the training, volunteer to run a drill, that kind of thing. But that's all I've got so far.
Cool. Yeah. I'll there's another question in the chat, and then we'll go to Nick. I think he had one. So Ben asked, how do you gain respect from players and in this case, high school players, when he himself is a high school player, or close friends with them?
I think putting in the work, like always being always being at training, always putting in the effort to run that extra for the mile, run that kind of, ask your coach if you can run a drill, or if you don't have a coach, kind of volunteer to do things. I think that's how I would go about it myself. I don't know if anyone else has any good advice on gaining respect from your immediate peers.
I think Rory Moore had a really good answer to a similar question like that, because he's quite good friends with the high schoolers that he coaches. But framing, I guess, when he's at coaching, that he's sacrificing his time, his free time, his personal time to coach these boys, or his boys, and not wanting to waste that time. So understanding that there is the setting of training versus outside of training, and being able to establish that boundary can help, is an idea.
Yeah, I think when I'm having a problem with people listening and they're not paying attention, kind of emphasizing the fact that I'm taking time out of other frisbee I could be playing, or kind of my own personal time in life, to come and give the experience that I have from whatever tournaments I've been to, to share that with everyone else, and kind of emphasizing that they're all doing that for each other as well is also important. Like, you're all giving up your time to be at training, so focus on training.
Cool. Nick, did you have a question?
Yeah, my question was very similar to Ben's, so I won't ask that one, but I've thought of another one since. This is to you and Amelia, Steph. Avondale and Pakuranga are, from what I can tell, the only two schools at the moment where their students actively seek frisbee opportunities outside of what is directly in front of them. Whereas a lot of the other more maybe not established, but like the schools that I've been involved with more around my area, like the kids just play, and then once they're no longer at school, then they go find something else because they have no other option. How have you managed to inspire the kids you coach to actually go and want to search for the more opportunities? Like we have a bunch of Avondale kids coming to our one-on-one training sometimes, and it's awesome. I was like, oh, you guys are so cool. But like, how have you managed to how have you managed to do that?
I think particularly for the Avondale kids, I organised them all to play one social league at Avondale Racecourse, and that introduced them to seven-a-side. And so taking the time out of my time to organise a team, organise for them to all go play in a more advanced league, meant that they actually kind of opened up their field of vision, and they saw all of the other people who play alternate. Like, they started interacting with people who weren't just in high school. And so then now, because they've played in that league, when I start like advertising opportunities of go join this group, go look at that at the AUC trainings, go sign up for this, sign up for that, they're more likely to actually go and do it because they've seen some of those people who they will then interact with at those trainings at that league, or they've interacted with people who are playing at a higher level and they want to kind of get more out of alternate. So I think taking the time to organise that league, even though I didn't need to, and it was just over the summer, it wasn't even during the term, really encouraged them to find other ways to play.
Awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of similar with Pakuranga, because we enter a team of kids into like the Kohi, which is like a social league as well. Not everyone joins, so I'm not sure how there's so many people so keen to play frisbee at AUC, but I guess it's just selling it and like giving them the links to the groups. And every year we always post like upcoming women's trials or mixed opportunities to like play mixed season, and it's up to them whether they want to do it or not. And I guess we're the kind of school where like the kids who join bring their friends along, so everyone ends up kind of like doing it because their friends are doing it. So if one person or the group of people are keen to take it further and we present them with the group or to the club to keep playing after high school, then that's kind of what keeps it going. So I think what also helps is the transition between high school and uni with AUC, where they have that tournament at the end of the year. It's called like high school summer fling. Is it still called that?
Yeah, that was really instrumental in getting some of those kids to go along to trainings.
Yeah, so I think having those opportunities where these kids in high school or the kids or the people that you're coaching are kind of shown where they can take their ultimate further by playing and immersing themselves with the community is like more of a showing rather than telling them why they should keep playing Frisbee.
Yeah.
And that could be something good to bring up too with Auckland Ultimate, in terms of maybe that's a new league or a new event that they want to try out as a transitionary playing opportunity between high school and the adult leagues, or even in addition to that AUC tournament, so that AUC can have that for recruiting players to play for that. But maybe there could be other opportunities throughout the year that could be run through Auckland Ultimate. And their AGM is coming up, so you could go and pitch that idea to them for them to think about doing that, because I think that's a risk where when people age out of one demographic that has lots of ultimate happening, and if we don't keep them going or offer opportunities, then they can potentially drop off and either not pick up a different sport or never come back to it. So I think it's really key to keep that transition pretty seamless if we can. And so I think Auckland Ultimate could have a role to play there too. Ooh, and so Spring Fling, when does that happen? Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to piggyback off of that. What Steph said about having like someone very encouraging who is a high school player, encouraging others is extremely important. And helping high schoolers transition into like the outer community. One thing that I wanted to add was that I think having a good relationship between the kids that you coach and like yourself creates that more open, friendly environment for them to go out into the world to like play other ultimate that's outside of high school, because I think there's a desirability about wanting to play with your coach or play against your coach and beat them, or have competitions. And so that relationship that you have between them is quite important for that transition as well.
I think there's often things where the kids ask me about specific things where I'm not that good at it or I don't know that much about it, and my immediate response is go along to this training because they'll cover it there, or go along to this training and you can ask people who have played for New Zealand, because I haven't played for New Zealand and they know that. And so I encourage them to go along to places where they kind of, giving, like Priscilla said, giving them that encouragement to actually go along and ask questions of people that they find.
Cool. Any other questions? All right. If not, then or if so, feel free to pipe up as we wrap up. But I think I've been taking some notes throughout the evening, and then I think we had Amelia and Steph sort of capture their own answers in a Google Doc so that we can share this after the fact. And I'll export the chat too so that we can capture all the links and things that people shared, and we'll share that afterwards as a bit of a recap. But yeah, if no one else has any questions, any last words, remarks, Steph or Amelia, that you would like to share before you do the, I'm not sure the timing of when you would do the closing. Okay, is that the very last thing to do?
Very last thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I just wanted to say thank you to Janet and Steph for helping run this and making sure that kind of we're doing it together so that we don't feel like we're all alone and just hosting the thing by ourselves, because that can be really intimidating. So thank you both for sharing your experience and being here with me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been fun, like starting all the webinar series, and can't wait to participate in the other ones. So hopefully we get a few people interested in coaching or coaching at a higher level. Keen to hear about some cool new teams popping up if that happens.
cool. Yeah, thank you both, Steph and Amelia. It was you who helped give this idea. Well, and Priscilla too, because you were part of it too, the inspiration for this topic. And thanks so much for sharing your stories and kind of the journeys that you guys went through. It was really, I think a lot of people can relate, and a lot of people can hopefully learn from your experiences. So awesome. With that, I will hand it over to you, Steph, to do the final closing.
Yeah. Kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te atawhai o tō tātou ariki, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, 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 amine. All right, have a good night, everyone.
Thanks all.
See you at the next webinar.
See ya.